Nah, ini yang saya suka nih, semangatnya ternyata makin sore makin semangat lagi. Oke, yang berikutnya kita akan segera lanjutkan, masih di panel discussion, kali ini panel discussion yang kedua mengenai driving towards the age of data in organization. Dan saya akan memperkenalkan moderator untuk panel discussion yang kedua ini. Beliau merupakan co-founder and CEO dari Algoritma Data Science School dan sebelumnya di tahun 2016 beliau memulai Plug and Play Accelerator di Indonesia sebagai Accelerator Director di mana beliau berhasil untuk berinvestasi di 8 dari 11 startup portfolio yang akhirnya menerima funding atau business development deals dari partner korporasi. Contohnya adalah Sayur Box, kemudian Brankas dan Dana Didik. Di 5 tahun terakhir beliau membangun Algoritma sebagai sekolah khusus untuk mengembangkan skill untuk data science menggunakan real data dan menyiapkan para siswanya untuk perusahaan-perusahaan di Indonesia. Kalau begitu langsung saja rekan-rekan saya minta tepuk tangan yang meriah kita sambut moderator kita di panel discussion yang kedua ini Bapak Nayoko Wicaksono.
Test, test. Hello, selamat siang. How's everybody doing? Everybody great? Awesome. Well, today we have a very, very special session and very exciting session. It's about data-driven organization. But before that, I want to give some context to what we're going to talk about today, right? So let me introduce myself. My name is Nayoko Wicaksono. I'm a co-founder of Algoritma Data Science School. And why are we here today? Because we want to actually learn a bit more about how data can actually leverage and bring advantages to your company, right? So a bit about Algoritma. It's founded in 2017. We're the very first to be certified in our studio in the whole Asia. We're also the very first school yang actually are exporting the curriculum to Singapore, abroad, right? So in Singapore, Ngee Poly University adopted our curriculum. We're also adopted in terms of the curriculum by a lot of corporates as well, BCA, DBS, and so forth. So part of the vision is actually to democratize data science skills. And why is this important? Why? Because we see that there's a lot of gap in terms of the skills that are needed, right? Like we all talk about Industrial 4.0, Indonesia moving into that area and space, but what happened to the human capital? We need to prepare that, right? And right now there is a lot of underqualified white-collar worker. So the corporates have a lot of trouble too in developing their capabilities, and that's where we stand in. This is not only happening in Indonesia, but this is also happening across the region. In fact, it's happening across the globe, right? So if we take a look here, the numbers here, the salary of data scientists across the globe is rising a lot. And the amount of experience is actually quite new in this case, right? Within 1 to 4 years, in Indonesia is still very, very new in this case. So the supply is also quite limited. And the reason why people are interested in this and why we should care is because, as you can see, this graph, right? It's flat, 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 flat in terms of computing power, but now computing power in the last 20 years has increased exponentially. With this exponential growth, we see that machines are going to overtake human capability as well in the future. But before that, we need to know how to actually leverage this to our advantage, right? How can we actually work with machines and use it to our advantage in this case? If we're not able to communicate with machines, then we're going to be left behind at the end of the day. So this is why it's important for companies and individuals to actually upskill yourself, right? So if you see the trend here, where is data trending towards? Where's the uses going to trend towards? It's going to trend towards unstructured data. Even until today, post-pandemic, right? Most of the data that we thought or what companies think are alternative data are actually becoming more and more mainstream data. Data like video, audio to be processed, data like social media, all this unstructured data. How would you actually process it? Using old methods like Excel spreadsheets, right? In the 90s, we used a lot of these Excel spreadsheets as to process financial data, operations data that are tabular, yeah. Y and X column, then a line and text and so forth. But now data become unstructured. How can you actually use Excel to actually process this? You can't. you need new approaches in this case, right? And with this new approach, it opens a lot of new possibilities. We can now do cohort analysis much better. We can make better decisions with data, right? We can actually do predictive stuff right now and prescriptive stuff, things that are recommended to us, like an AI and machine learning, for example. So one particular example that I would like to highlight, for example, is this company called Apple Bank, right? So with the machine learning that they have using random forest and decision tree, they're able to monitor 18 million transactions per month, check 8,000 transactions per month, and monitor 13,000 securities transactions per month. And that result in what? 57% reduction and 57% improvement in their KYC. So that number is significant. And this is why for companies right now, they're all racing towards becoming data-driven. This is very, very interesting, right? As you can see, the number is 15.7 trillion US dollar by 2030. That's a huge number. By this year, it's 2.2 trillion US dollar in terms of the value generated by insights-driven company. So with this, we see more and more companies jumping into this and investing a lot into data, right? And if us as an organization, as a nation, are not actually catching up to this, we're going to be left behind if we cannot leverage and use machine intelligence to our advantage in this case. So if you want to build this as an organization, to build this capability, then how do we do it, right? Capability building is very, very important to upskill our own workforce. And a lot of the gaps that are happening where leaders really want to be data-driven is really hindered because there is not enough talent. And this is where we need to democratize the skills. What does it mean to democratize the skill? Is to make sure that the culture is democratized, where analytics are happening in every business unit. Not necessarily hiring one full expert, yang chief data officer right away or anything, where they're really, really expensive. I would rather hire 20 of the people who can do basic data analytics really well than one PhD, for example. Because there's just so much value that you can actually get by doing this basic analysis at first, right? And you have to keep in mind that a lot of the skills are still new. So if you set the expectations of all these new beginners of data analysts to actually do complex projects, they're going to fail. So this is why doing it step by step will help and organizations who are just starting into this. So our curriculum is adopted, as I said, by several universities as well as corporates. And if you're interested, then you can actually take a look as well at our data science case studies by industries. And this is the link, so feel free to scan it. Meanwhile, I would like to introduce the rest of the participants here, the panelists. So today we have Pak Muhamad Kamaluddin, President Director of JakLingko Indonesia. Sebelumnya Pak Kamal merupakan Corporate Secretary untuk PT MRT Indonesia dan juga sebagai Strategic Portfolio Project General Manager di Shell Indonesia. Beliau memiliki latar belakang yang kuat di bidang manajemen operasional dan juga telah menempuh MBA di Business School di UK. Another one exciting is Norman Sasono, CTO of Dana. Norman merupakan Chief Technology Officer di Dana. Memiliki lebih besar dari 20 tahun pengalaman dalam membangun berbagai computing system di bagian perusahaan enterprise maupun startup environment. Norman juga menjadi co-founder di 2 teknologi startup. Beliau juga mendapatkan penghargaan di tahun 2020 sebagai Top 25 FinTech CTO. So, very exciting speakers today. Then we also have Amanda Melissa. She's VP Data Management and Business Intelligence in Sociolla. Amanda mengawali karir di bidang market research yang sebelumnya akhirnya berkecimpung di big data. Setelah berkarir selama lebih dari 12 tahun, Amanda sebelumnya merupakan Chief of Consumer Officer untuk L'Oreal Indonesia, lalu bergabung dengan Data Analytics di L'Oreal Asia Pacific. Saat ini, Amanda menjadi VP Data Management and Business Intelligence untuk e-commerce number 1 beauty and personal care e-commerce di Indonesia, yaitu Sociolla. Last but not least, we have Arvy Dipora, Chief Consumer Officer of Mekari. Arvy memiliki lebih dari 10 tahun pengalaman kerja di berbagai bidang seperti financial services, management consultant, private equity, dan juga e-commerce. Sebagai CCO Mekari, data menjadi komponen terpenting untuk memprediksi perilaku customer. Memastikan customer mencapai penggunaan secara maksimal dan dari setiap produk Mekari. Okay, so with this, I would like to invite the panelists to come on top of the stage. Let's give them a warm welcome. All right. So, how's everybody doing here?
Great.
Great. So today we have the topic on data-driven organization, right? I mean, I think we have heard a lot about this term, also big data, AI, and machine learning. I think what would be interesting for the audience is to kind of understand from each of you as an individual how you experience in using data for your organization, and what are the main advantages in using data as compared to before. If you like take a look before this era, without using data, what are one of the things that you find the most significant in terms of the difference in here? So maybe mungkin start with Norman dulu, silakan. Yeah. You've been around like doing this for a long time.
Thank
yeah.
you. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Dana was born digital. So we're not going through a digital transformation because we were born digital, and our operation is all digital because we are a digital payment platform, right? So in a sense, data is at the center of what we do. So any features, capabilities that we provide to our customers, our partners, are basically something to serve them, but it's also a mean to collecting data. So we have users, we have transactions, we have partners. So all the data that we are collecting, and this is actually the jewel of the crown of the systems or the operation of anything that we do actually. This is the most valuable thing that we have. So maybe like most companies already understand data can be used to do analytics, to provide the decision-making support, strategic planning, and so forth, efficiency of operations and the like. But on the other hand, in company like us, data is actually very useful in terms of creating products, features, or services that is going to be delivered to the customers and the users.
Can you give example maybe in Dana, for example? What are the biggest, most significant use of the data?
So users doing a lot of transactions, right? And with the data that we have, the data that we collect, we can do, as an example, one, we can help to do personalization for the user because we know the behavioral transaction of one particular customer. So we know what kind of product and services that may suit him the best. On the other hand, we can also use data to protect users. As an example, when there is every single transaction that happens, we got the data, and then we have a risk engine that gauges whether this is legit transaction, whether it's confirmed a fraudulent transactions or something in between that we are not sure. It can be legit, it can be not. So based on the risk engine that uses data at the heart of it, we will challenge the user, whether through OTP or through PINs or through face recognition, just to confirm whether you are a legit user, this is a legit transaction. And from that challenge itself, we learn again. So we use data to give personalization. We use data to protect the users. So yeah, I used to tell my team something that I quote from Jack Sparrow.
Jack Sparrow.
Not all treasures are silver and gold, mate. Data is the treasure.
Yeah, awesome. So essentially, if I can summarize this, it's really about creating value from data, right? I think we spoke about this, Amanda, before, right? Like a common misconception about big data and things like this. And I think we spoke about this thing about creating value. Can you elaborate a little bit about like what you were talking about earlier?
Okay, I think when we talk about big data, everyone was already overwhelmed, like how big is it? And everyone was already like in their mind, like the first question is, do I need to capture all of them? Actually, to start, the best way to start is to think, what would you do with the data? It's the same questions. If you know something, how would you use it? What kind of action can you actually make out of that insights? So, because out of all the characteristics, I think there are, when the big data era started, the characteristics is only 5, now it goes to 14. One of it stays, which is value. Big data will only be valuable if you know what to do with it, right? So the first questions that people need to start to keep in mind before starting to talk about big data is, what is your business question? What is the most question that haunted you every night about your business?
Yeah.
Then you break those down into more operational questions. Then how can you think of what data, what would be the indicator for me to help answering my business questions? I think that's the best way to start.
Yes, very, very important on that. And a lot of management or leaders have this misconception essentially, right? Where they focus so much on the tech infrastructure, but not really on the value, significant value that's being generated. Mungkin Bapak bisa elaborate a bit about what sort of value has been generated at JakLingko in this case, in terms of your analytics.
Yeah, there's a lot of value of data that we are using at this moment. Mungkin saya mix dengan bahasa Indonesia
Ya,
juga.
silakan
Ya.
Pak.
Okay. Jadi di JakLingko ini sebetulnya perusahaan baru dan kita sekarang luncurkan tarif integrasi antara 3 moda MRT Jakarta, Transjakarta dengan LRT Jakarta. Dan tarif integrasi ini juga dilakukan based on the study that was based on data, of course. So we integrate the data from all operators, even extended beyond these operators. Jadi kita extend juga dengan termasuk dengan data KCI, termasuk perjalanan dari Jabodetabek menuju ke Jakarta, dan dilakukan modeling. Dan dari modeling itu ditemukan bahwa sebetulnya behavior dari warga Jabodetabek ini adalah menggunakan mixing dari 3 atau 2 moda, majority. Jadi sekitar 60%-nya menggunakan 3 moda dan 40% lebih banyak menggunakan 2 moda. Jadi dari informasi itu kemudian dianalize, kita buat model, dan dari modeling yang didapatkan keluar rekomendasi untuk tarif integrasi yang sekarang diresmikan oleh pemerintah Provinsi DKI, yaitu Rp10.000 untuk 3 moda dan maksimum 3 jam perjalanan, dan apabila perjalanan jarak pendek membayarnya lebih murah lagi, yaitu Rp2.500 untuk boarding fee dan Rp250 per kilometer.
Wow.
Based on that pricing formula, passengers di Jabodetabek ini akan mendapatkan savings kira-kira sekitar 40% sampai dengan 50% dari yang sebelumnya dibayarkan. But the beauty of that data dan projectionnya, operatornya juga tetap mendapatkan keuntungan. Mereka tetap mendapatkan balance revenue karena jumlah passengernya akan naik. Jadi walaupun per tiket fare akan lebih murah yang dibayarkan per passenger, tapi karena number of passengernya akan meningkat based on the projection, dari masing-masing operator ini semuanya tetap akan mendapatkan total revenue yang kurang lebih sama dengan sebelumnya. Itu jadi ini yang menarik, bahkan in the long run projectionnya untuk jumlah penumpangnya ini akan naik terus. Tahun pertama akan naik sekitar 16%, tahun berikutnya juga akan naik terus sampai targetnya untuk tahun 2029 bisa naik sampai dengan 3 kali lipat. Jadi tujuannya ini supaya bisa grow together with all the operators.
That's amazing. It's a win-win. Jarang ya bisa dapat win-win where company also have an impact, tapi juga the masyarakat as a whole bisa dapat impact yang positif juga. It's amazing. It's not a win-lose in this case. Journey-nya pasti lumayan berat ya dari sisi data collection dan lain-lain. Can you share a bit about that journey, Pak? It must be quite a challenge, right, to do this.
Jadi memang prosesnya sendiri berjalan bersamaan in parallel with the establishment of JakLingko Indonesia sendiri ya. Jadi dari mulai dibentuk sebagai JV, masing-masing operator ini menjadi pemilik sahamnya JakLingko sehingga mereka lebih fleksibel untuk sharing datanya ke JakLingko. Kemudian dari data yang didapatkan juga harus dilakukan modeling dan dilakukan survei lagi. That's exactly important because you cannot make decision only rely on data analytics, but you also have to add some human insights.
Yes.
Jadi walaupun misalkan sudah didapatkan dari model, tetap kita perlu verify, terutama untuk satu yang strategik seperti tarif integrasi ini. Dan prosesnya cukup panjang dan ada total even sampai 100 scenarios of pricing plan di tahun lalu yang kita lakukan modeling. Kemudian finalisnya ada 5 pricing formula, kemudian dipilih satu pricing formula yang paling balance untuk semua kriteria yang menjadi perhatian baik dari company-nya maupun dari stakeholder-nya yaitu pemerintah provinsi dan pemerintah dan Kementerian Perhubungan.
Essentially kalau di startup ada term namanya customer lifetime value, you're basically increasing this, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of customer lifetime value, at Mekari, it's very important, especially in your role, right, Arvy, about retaining customer, about making sure that customer have a really good experience going forward. So how does Mekari do this at this moment?
Yeah, I think as tech company ya, mungkin jawabannya mix Indo-Inggris ya, biar audience juga mungkin bisa relate. So I think we started off from the ground up. So we look at what data do we need. And I think what people tend to overlook adalah data acquisitions. So how do you capture the data? Is it actually clean data or is it actually gross data gitu? Karena kalau ngomongin data kotor, kita ngelihatnya banyak data yang nggak bisa diproses. In the end, you cannot build machine learning on that because it's actually gonna produce like trash predictions gitu kan. So I think the thing that we actually quite strong at is actually building data governance on the team. Yeah, how you capture data, how to make sure that data is actually very clean and continuously updated, and then try to get like more sense on what data do you need in the operational team, like understanding your customers' data, what do you have, what you don't have, and what do you need to actually capture at the soonest. So I think as a combinations from the operational side as well as from the product side, because actually we'll be building product software, right? So I think there's a lot of data points that we can capture. So for me to be able to analyze, like we know, we can understand like what's the lifetime value of a customers, of a specific segment, for example. But what we need to know to actually the actions, right? Like how do we actually extend that lifetime value? So I think getting to know the needs of the data that you need is very important. So rather than just say, okay, I want to do this, but you need to know like how, if I do this, what sort of outcome is possible? Like we need to simulate, like for example, Pak Kemal just mentioned, like what sort of simulations you need to run to be able to get to the results. So I think that's the thing that I observe, yeah, most of the companies are lacking. So they just want to know the end goal, but they don't want to know the process. Ya, sometimes if you see the management, they just want to know kenapa datanya nggak tally gitu. Karena even if you see the big enterprises like PLN, Pertamina, they have ERP gitu ya, tapi they still manage Excel karena datanya nggak tally sama operations gitu kan. Dan sometimes yang people nggak bisa accept itu adalah, ya kenapa nggak tally? It's because you don't track your data collections gitu.
Availability of datanya nggak ada.
Mereka cuma taunya, ya pokoknya saya maunya tally gitu. Ya, they need to know the process. I think that's the thing yang people overlook sih most of the time. So I think that's how I try to kind of start from the ground up sih.
Right. I mean, not all companies have those kind of access to data, especially if, companies yang B2B don't generally have as big of those kind of like access, right? So I mean, how do you collect this data so that especially external data, right? You have your internal data, but sometimes it's also powerful to be able to combine those. Can you give examples of how you are able to combine those external and this internal data to provide better insights?
Yeah, I think the first thing that needs to be done is to actually build a comprehensive a team yang capable ya to be able to get insights yang dibutuhkan gitu. Contohnya like for example the technical stuff will be done by data team, tapi you need to have the business insights team as well to actually leverage on what sort of data points yang needs to be collected further. Dan ini nggak perlu kompleks misalnya kita capture from our product gitu, tapi something as simple as, for example, getting to know which industry is actually going to be declining, for example, or which industry is going to be akan berkembang dengan trends yang ada sekarang gitu. So to be able to be open-minded towards external data is actually as important as getting the good internal data. So how do you mix those two is actually collaborations internally. Jadi gimana antara tim ini bisa saling berkolaborasi dan bisa mendapatkan data yang bisa kita action gitu. Jadi mungkin different business will have a different use case ya, atau case studies gitu ya. Contohnya tadi mungkin kalau di JakLingko gitu, kita lebih banyaknya data passengers gitu ya. How we can actually build and optimize pricing for those people gitu. Mungkin di Dana lebih ke transactions data. Di Sociolla juga mungkin assortments data gitu ya. Jadi mungkin itu yang perlu dilihat lebih dalam dan build relevant team to be able to enrich the data insightfulness-nya sih. Seperti itu, Eko.
Excellent. I mean, maybe Norman or Amanda or Pak Muhammad, maybe like you could share a bit about like or comment on Arvy's input on this. Like, do you have anything
about
really,
the collecting
yes,
of data?
Yes, about data collection, because that's a lot of the challenges and a lot of the complaints that I keep hearing for companies who are starting into this.
Okay. So in terms of collecting the data, luckily, since we are a digital platform and users interact with us through an app, so from that app and that interaction, we collect a lot of data points. And then the data points after we collect, we just need to protect, and then eventually we unlock the value of this data later. We kind of like not have that much challenge like many other companies because of that smoother flows of the data in the collection and also in the unlocking. But I think the challenge for us is more on not about how to build the thing right, but on how to build the right thing. So we're going to ask, because the infrastructure is there basically, and it's smooth, the tech is there. We can get the data, we can protect the data, we can build data models and so forth after that. But then the questions will be, are we collecting the right data points? Who can tell whether we are already collecting the right data points or is it the wrong data points? So basically the challenge for us is more on that, not in terms of the execution or the operation of collecting the data, the building of the tech stack, the data platform infrastructure, all those people can just learn, Google, go to schools, take trainings to build that, to build the thing right. However, to ensure we're building the right thing, that is tricky, that would need experience, wisdom, sometimes maybe guessing.
Right.
So those are the less scientific part. I think somewhat still scientific, but there is also an art part of that. That's what makes it difficult.
That's why as a data scientist or data analyst, you really, really have to have a good business acumen in this case, right? So and that's also another skill and misconception of people is you just have to be good at statistics and programming and you're good, right? So, I mean, maybe you can share an experience, maybe Amanda, leading a team like this, right? Like somebody who's new and they expect, oh, hey, I'm good at programming, I'm good at statistics, I should be able to do this, right? Like, have you had those kind of like, when you interview somebody who has those kind of like attitude, and how do you correct those, right? Yeah.
That's a very classical question all the time. So, ini campur bahasa Indonesia kali ya.
Pakai bahasa Indonesia.
Jadi, ya mungkin banyak yang bilang bahwa in the future yang talent yang paling penting adalah ya talent model data engineer, data scientist, tim tech yang sehubungan dengan data. The problem is technical skills is one thing, but kita tetap butuh yang namanya data steward. Data steward itu apa? Kalau bahasa Indonesia mungkin pengetahuan tentang bidangnya sendiri. Misalnya kalau Sociolla, the target of Sociolla, the business objective adalah kami mau jadi the beauty destinations untuk beauty enthusiast. Yang mana artinya adalah kalau kamu mau beli sesuatu, saya beli serum buat muka di Sociolla, everything yang kamu lihat di apps-nya itu harus kamu banget. Misalnya, kalau kamu search serum, itu harus nongol brand serum yang harus udah sesuai sama kulit kamu. Nah, semuanya ini bisa dibikin oleh any data scientist, all the logics. Tapi, the knowledge of misalnya skincare-nya, ini belum tentu semua data scientist tahu kan. Jadi tetap butuh knowledge on the beauty itself. Itu yang orang-orang macam data analyst atau orang yang bukan technical atau business side itu bisa bantu. So what I'm trying to say is untuk overcome this problem, I think tech talents needs to also work out of their silo. Talk more to the users of the data. Jadi kelihatan ini tuh harusnya jadi apa, instead of building the model ini akan dipakai untuk apa. Kira-kira challenges dalam bersihin datanya tuh apa aja. Yang bikin datanya anomali tuh apa aja. Karena kalau hanya rely on statistic, okay, numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
I have to agree with that. But is it making sense? Most of the time not.
You have to create a story behind it, not just looking at the data. Because if you can't translate it into a story, then the end user can't understand it. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And after they created something, it needs to be translated back to the language, ke bahasa yang orang-orang awam gitu. Jangan sampai ini loh, analisisnya udah jadi. Terus begitu tim marketingnya lihat, apa ini? Oh iya, 80% sekian-sekian. All those numbers, but it does not mean anything. So harus ada better communications. So yang pakai datanya juga ngerti mesti ngapain gitu. Like data storyteller.
Yeah, and background of this practitioner doesn't even have to always be engineering or computer science background. In fact, yourself, right? Maybe you can tell a bit about your background, right?
Exactly. I used to be very ashamed because I have no technical background. I'm actually graduated from psikologi, ya, yang lagi banyak kasusnya mental health atau butuh healing, enggak. Tapi sebagai praktisi yang penting buat saya, biasanya saya memperkenalkan diri saya sebagai data storyteller atau kuncen data. Jadi yang in between antara tim bisnis sama tim tech, ini kayak yang menerjemahkan ini data maksudnya gimana. Sama kalau misalnya tim bisnis bilang, ini kayaknya apps-nya mesti ditambahin features supaya misalnya, I'm just making this up ya. Kalau aku foto, aku scan, langsung apps-nya bisa ngasih tahu barang apa yang mesti dibeli. Itu ditranslate gimana coba? So my job is actually the in between. Translate dari bisnis ke tech, translate dari tech ke bisnis.
Right. Providing the logic as well, right, on that side. Very interesting. Nah, speaking of, that's kind of like talent is sort of related as well to building the talent is also related to how you can build the company as a whole in terms of culture, right? Pak, how do you transform somebody like a company yang biasanya kan, we always have this thinking that okay, BUMN is very very rigid and so forth. Like, how did you transform yourself into like this startup of the BUMNs, Pak? In this case, yang agile. How do you create this kind of culture, of data-driven culture?
Yeah, we have to start from the top.
Right.
We have to give examples that the data culture start from the top in making decision, not to jump to conclusion, but we have to base everything on the data. Dan beberapa hal ya, mungkin kalau misalkan kita bicara digital platform seperti JakLingko gitu ya, yang sekarang sedang transformasi, yang sebelumnya sebagian besar payment di public transport itu menggunakan kartu, kedepannya akan menggunakan digital platform, yang menggunakan app, dan kemudian nanti app ini juga akan banyak nanti pengembangannya begitu ya. Bisa saja kemudian manajemen kalau tidak memberikan contoh untuk data culture, langsung go ahead, let's build a super app gitu. Karena sekarang trennya super app semua begitu. Ini nggak bisa, kita perlu melakukan analytics dari data yang kita punya, baik dari sisi behaviornya passenger kita, kemudian juga dari sisi operatornya, dari sisi infrastrukturnya, dan kita perlu betul-betul develop product based on data analytics. Dan saya juga punya satu policy ya, jadi buat semua layers di organization itu mulai dari data awareness dan mulai dari questions about data. Jadi misalkan kalau dari misalkan head of strategic planning, business development mungkin udah biasa gitu ya. Mereka I'm the business development analyst. I have to use data of the people mobility and I have to use that insight to develop new products, let's say. New ticketing system, new ticketing offering. Let's say in addition of fare integration, there will be a period pass, like weekly passes, monthly passes, and so forth. That will be based on data. Tapi layer yang lain juga perlu punya awareness juga. Jadi bukan cuma dari sisi business development, tapi juga dari sisi operation, dari sisi HR, semuanya have to start from the questions and have to think what data insight that they need to do the job.
This is truly the epitome of a data-driven organization, like using data everywhere, right? In all level to guide them, basically. Yeah. So a lot of feature building basically is using data-driven. It's much better if we can actually measure the data before building those features. Otherwise, you overbuild the feature that might not even be used in the end, right?
Exactly.
But, yeah, that's very very interesting. Norman, I mean, you've had a lot of experience building product yourself. You know, you've led 500 people in your team right now. How much of this are driven by data in terms of your features, building those kind of features, new features, and so forth? Yeah.
Thank you. So, the interesting part that whenever we want to build features, prioritize features, is we are referring to data. So we can define, let's say, we have a backlog of the things that we want to build. That's a lot of them. And then we want to prioritize which ones are very important. We call it P0. And then the least important, P1, P2, P3, and so forth. How do we put weight on each particular feature? We basically use data points that support that particular feature. So how do we do that? We have a framework internally in Dana. We call it ARM: acquisition, retention, and monetization. So through these three dimensions, we will gauge 8 particular features that we will build, how much user acquisition it will bring, or how much retention or transaction per user it will increase, or how much new revenue stream or better profitability that this feature will bring. So the higher any of these three will bring, the higher the item goes up to the list. So that's how we structure that. And then we also have the data of the capacity of the team that can ship these particular features. Let's say how many of this backlog we can put in the sprint. And then we use that and put that in the sprint and then execute. But then actually the data is not just used before the product is built. During the product execution itself, we also monitor the traction, how the users are using it, what doing well, what are not doing well. We also instrument not just the transactional data, but also technical stuff like server side of things, the monitoring of the servers, the infrastructures, the apps, how many crash-free apps, and so forth. So a lot of instrumentation is going on. And then also throughout the life cycle of the product, how we're going to kill a product is also based on data. Let's say we have a team that built pretty highly experimental products or features that is not necessarily high up in that prioritization, but we want to test this startup, right? We want to, the lean startup, MVP kind of thing, and then we build and ship, and then we have a gate of traction. So if this particular features not reaching a certain traction by a certain amount of time, then it may be not worth it to continue, and we can just kill this product and build something else or improve something else instead. Because engineering mandates for us is one of the most expensive currency.
And it's so
we need-
interesting, right?
Yeah.
Killing a product, guys. Killing a product that you have painstakingly built and you kill it. That's a very hard decision. It takes a lot of commitment into the data
Exactly.
to kill that.
But when
right?
the data says so that
Yeah.
this doesn't work, this has to be killed, then everyone, including the team that actually built those, akan berbesar hati dan yeah, we have to kill this. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Because we only have so much resource, we can't do that, right? Speaking of like this, a lot of these features that you built, we collect a lot of these data points and multiple data points, right? Dana probably collects so many data points of the user itself, Sociolla, JakLingko, Mekari. There's always questions from the user, right? Like anxiety, what is my data being used for and things like that. So how do you guys protect this, the privacy, and especially today with a lot of this new regulation, GDPR and so forth to protect consumer side data, and it's becoming harder and harder as well, right? To get these data points. So how do you balance this out? How do you balance between privacy and the use of data in this case? Yeah, silakan,
Start
Pak.
with me. Yeah, I think the key is to depersonalize data. For us, it's very important because we are dealing with data that come from the other operators, from the public transport operator. Jadi kami mengintegrasikan data dari MRT Jakarta, Transjakarta, kemudian LRT Jakarta, KCI, bahkan dengan operator swasta yaitu Grab, and it will continue to expand to other operators. So first of all, the passengers information, the private information must be protected. Dan ketika kita melakukan analytics, tentunya kita harus depersonalize datanya. Dan tentunya di dalam juga ada assessment untuk memastikan semuanya ini bisa dilakukan data governance yang baik begitu. Dan banyak reporting yang kami lakukan kepada stakeholders seperti kepada dinas perhubungan, kepada pemerintah dan sebagainya. Tentunya ini juga perlu dikemas juga menjadi data agregat. Dan kami melakukan benchmark. Salah satu yang paling menarik seperti dari Transporter London ya. Mereka sudah integrasikan semua modanya dari bus, rail, cable car, you name it, sampai ke even CCTV, even Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi. If you know, free Wi-Fi access in London actually is tracking you wherever you go. Jadi kalau misalkan di London, mungkin kebayang ketika kita masuk dari satu stasiun kereta, kemudian ketemu di stasiun kereta yang lain, ketika kita pindah, ingat, kita tidak pernah tap out. Langsung pindah kereta, kemudian naik kereta lain, kemudian baru tap out di ujung. Bagaimana Transport for London track your mobility is through your free Wi-Fi access. Tapi mereka bisa legally and legitimately lakukan itu karena mereka sudah depersonalize datanya. Dan mereka juga lakukan extensive analytics, bahkan tahu footprint untuk setiap area dari stasiun sehingga kita bisa tahu workload-nya dari passenger ketika berpindah dalam satu stasiun. Jadi bukan cuma pindah antar moda, tapi tahu ketika kita pindah dari tap in, kemudian mendekati stasiun berapa sebenarnya crowding-nya di sana. Dan yang paling penting, JakLingko juga punya komitmen untuk memastikan bahwa passenger dari JakLingko, user JakLingko bisa merasakan benefit dari data analytics itu. Jadi ketika menggunakan aplikasi JakLingko bisa mendapatkan rekomendasi perjalanan based on the best route possible gitu ya. Ada yang most economic possible. Ini kan semuanya dilakukan based on data analytics juga. Jadi kita juga harus tunjukkan value, balik lagi seperti yang kata Manda tadi, dan ini value-nya harus kembali lagi ke passenger dan usernya sehingga mereka juga lebih comfortable untuk menggunakan datanya. It's going to be for your benefit as well.
Excellent. How about from the others here? I wanna hear as well from you guys. Maybe Amanda, like how do you protect this in this or Norman? Yeah, again.
So there are actually two parts, right? The privacy part.
Location, like that's pretty. Well, it's pretty cool to see. Like, okay, the location can help us bring benefits, but it's kind of creepy and scary juga kan. Kayak kita di track di mana-mana nih, ya kan. Dana also do that, right? There's location tracking. So how do you?
We do that info. So for example, let's say location. Let's talk about location. We know a certain users transacting with us, right? In Jakarta, in coffee shop, okay? And then all of a sudden, in some days, he's transacting from somewhere in Canggu. Something is unusual. So our system can detect that, and maybe you don't transact from Canggu. So is it really you? Then we may throw a challenge, either face verification as an example. So that's how we address, and how the location information is actually useful if they are being shared to us, so that we can help to protect you. Gitu. So the key in terms of keeping the privacy is at the beginning, we need to have the consent from the users on how are we going to collect and what is the purpose of the collection, and so that the users can opt in or opt out, whether their data wants to be collected or not. And then after that, Baba talked about the governance and everything, so we really need to do that. So that we can really protect the privacy of the user's data. But then that's one pillar, right? The other pillar is something yang mungkin not intentional from us, tapi bad guys actually get access to those data. So we need to pay attention on the security side of things. So we need to enforce our security capabilities. We need to be able, let's say, even to be audited by third parties, getting security certification. As an example, Dana has PCI DSS certifications because we work with data around credit card data. So how do we do that? Gitu. Jadi we don't store users' credit card data as is. What we do is tokenization. When user bind their credit card to Dana, we got that data, we pass it to the bank that own that credit card, and then the bank come up with a token, and then that token that will be saved in our database, and whenever there is a transaction using that card, we just pass through the token, not the card. So the data itself need to be stored with encryption, and then also if data needs to be shown to user, if it's a sensitive data, you need to do data masking. So a lot of measures we need to be done, because privacy, protecting, consent, governance, because this is us, we may be the good guys, we are ensuring data's not tampered, but to block access from bad guys to access the data, we need to have proper security.
Wow, nice. Amanda, how about you?
I think the way that Sociolla does it is pretty much the same. First is consent, making sure, because when you sign up or when you order the package to be delivered to your wherever you are, there are informations about you, right? So making sure that they know what they're signing up for. So pretty much the same. And as much as and we know that this information is gold, right? How we can reach them, how can we actually we connect with them. But and we like to protect our shopper as much as we can. So we did the same. I mean, we limit access, even within the company itself. Only certain people have access to it. And even if there is a need to actually use the data, we will mask it. So no one has access to the entire data.
So, I mean, that means that the entire organization have to kind of be aware first about this importance of data, the power of this data, right? Which is really about building culture. So, I mean, in your experiences as leaders, right, how do you build very strong data-driven culture in this case? I mean, let's start with Arvy. Like, how do you build this very strong data-driven culture?
Is that something that you sekali dilakukan selesai gitu ya? It's actually a continuous process gitu. So start from the top down. I think as Pak Kemal mentioned juga gitu. Gimana dari leadership juga bisa set the standards. Kayak what sort of data is being required for a team to manage and all that gitu. Dan selain itu juga mungkin jangan terlalu fokus kepada data juga. Karena there's like terms called data fatigue kan. You have too many data to analyze, you don't know how to actually act on them gitu ya. So I think the act of balancing between data and actually decisions making is actually important. Karena when you have a lot of data, it's actually a bit slowing down your decision making process kan. Jadi gimana bisa nge-balance that out. So building the culture starts from tops down, tapi jangan terlalu rigid juga, in my opinion gitu. So it's a bit of a balancing act from the leadership team sih.
Interesting. And of course, related to culture, the talent itself and building up this talent is something yang quite difficult at this moment, right? So, in your opinion, is Indonesia, do we have enough supply at the moment? And like, what are some of the challenges that you see in terms of talent crunch, for example, that we keep hearing in this case? Yeah, silakan Pak.
Yeah, it's very competitive market for talent now, and data scientist is very popular. Dan apalagi sekarang possible untuk work from anywhere. Jadi sering sekali didengar, misalkan sudah bekerja lama di perusahaan lokal, kemudian di hire oleh perusahaan asing dan bekerjanya dari Indonesia gitu secara remotely, sangat mudah begitu untuk pindah. Bahkan ada juga yang sampai di hire untuk bekerja full time di negara lain begitu ya. Saya juga lakukan beberapa research dan ada beberapa yang menjadi network kami, misalkan menjadi data scientist di airline internasional di Timur Tengah dan sebagainya, yang terus kami untuk lakukan networking untuk belajar seperti apa yang dilakukan di sana. Kuncinya dengan talent yang terbatas dan kompetitif seperti sekarang perlu dilakukan upskillingnya. Jadi kita alternatifnya upskilling dulu dari dalam, dan mungkin talent yang masih baru kita lakukan upskilling, dan tentunya untuk yang lebih experience ya lebih berani untuk bisa kompetitif di market.
Nice. Yeah, I mean thank you for sending to algorithm, by the way. Sedikit promosi, sorry. Okay. Anyway, back to topic. So let's talk a bit about ini ya. Bagaimana nih kalau misalnya di sini, we're almost out of time by the way. So a lot of people here really want to get started on this, embark on this journey. Mau mulai nih. Nah, what are your tips from you guys on how to start, how to kickstart this in an organization? To get into using and leveraging the data supaya datanya itu emang benar-benar bisa creating value. Where should they start? Where do they begin in this case? Yeah, silakan.
Maybe I can share a simple framework that we use in regards to data. So basically what we do is just three things, right? Collect, protect, and then unlock. So we collect the data, we protect the data, and we unlock the value out of that data. Gitu. So think about that simple mechanism, and then you just start wherever you are now. Gitu. Your company size, your business, whether you're digital native or not digital native. There are two parts yang you need to pay attention to. We touched many of this before, right? Jadi two things. One is the infrastructure, and the other one is culture. So you need to really pay attention and set up both of these so that your embarkation on your data journey will do well. Infrastructure, of course, that needs to be set up. Gitu. Depends on the phase of your organization and the size. Gitu ya. You can start even with Excel. It's okay, gitu, as a start. Gitu. Tapi as you go big and bigger, maybe you would really need a huge big data platform yang advanced. Even in the beginning, mungkin you just have one guy yang look after data, and then at a certain size, you may really have specializations. You have data engineers that look after ingestions. You have data analysts that build analytics and report. You have data scientists yang build data models, and then data model is not production grade. You need ML ops and ML engineers to make those data model production grade. So as you grow through the journey, more and more capabilities, specializations, and infrastructure technology that you need to set up so that you can go through that. But on the other hand, infrastructure alone is not enough. You need also the culture. But again, culture alone also not enough. Without the right infrastructure, how you can enforce culture? When we talk about culture, it's about behavior, how people do things every day. So
it's habit building.
Yeah,
habit building.
Yeah, it's a habit. It's not technology problem anymore. It's psychology and sociology problem. So how you bisa create that change of behavior yang tadinya nggak data driven become data driven. So a few things you can do. Let's say you are the leader of the company, be the example. Whenever you are going to do strategy, planning, execution, or giving assignments to your team, showcase how you leverage the data. In any chance you have meetings, discussions with your staff, talk about data. So they get used to it. Gitu ya. Sometimes you may want to also reward people if they speak data. Gitu. So the culture is encouraging so that people, okay, this is data. And at the end of the day, when you look at this, people been talking about three things, right? In everything that we do as a business, as a company, as an organization is people, process, technology. That is not enough today. What we need is four: people, process, technology, and data. Gitu. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so I mean, those four key elements are very, very important. And if we want to create expertise inside our organization, I mean, normally to become an expert, you need at least 10,000 hours. Like kita pilot harus ada jam terbangnya yang tinggi banget ya kan. And we need to be able to really think about this knowledge economy where we need to leverage knowledge instead of just with time, right? Otherwise, if we don't actually improve ourselves, we're just growing secara linear. We can't keep up with that earlier that I mentioned, exponential growth of the machine. So how do we keep that up is by keeping our knowledge in check and improving ourselves, right? Yeah, so thank you so much. I guess we're out of time. I'll pass this back to the MC. Thanks so much, guys. Yeah.
Baik, terima kasih. Terakhir untuk menutup sesi ini kita akan berfoto bersama. Silakan, Pak Nayoko dan juga tentunya dengan para panelis kita.